What's up, everyone? This is Jordan from Poison Noises. I'm here with my buddy Max Feinstein. We're here to talk about a very cool collab project we've been working on for a while. I just sent him a big old box down to him of some cool pedals that we were working on. And this is also the first time we've ever done this kind of content over a Zoom call. So how you doing today, man? What's going on with you?
It started out really sort of like a landlocked day. My apartment needed like the whole heating system looked at, and it's an old building. So I basically like rerouted my whole day to make sure I was there so nobody was stupid and opened a window and let my cats out on a 4-story walk up. Like,
oh, yeah.
One of my cats is absolutely stupid enough to go exploring like that. So, you got to keep an eye on
we
that.
got one of those at my house too also, so I empathize with you at the very least. but yeah. I'm glad we were able to work out a time for this, man. This is cool. I'm excited. This is also technically the first time you and I have ever spoken in like I don't want to call it face to face, but I guess in a live context.
Yeah.
This has kind of just been via Facebook Messenger and email and everything. Somehow we managed to pull together a collab pedal without actually talking in unison. That's
really?
That's an accomplishment all on its own, So
And here
but
it is. We have the Tapo neg.
Hey.
That way.
There you go. It's always hard to get it centered when you're doing it, but I love the color on that too. We ended up going with what was the original powder coating on the crook on the edition 1 through 3. Yeah, V1 through V3. So it was cool to get to use that color again, which was very exciting. I was stoked to do that, and you did the art for that one too. I didn't even have to do any art for that one, so that makes it a little bit easier for me.
I don't know what it was exactly, but I had this really specific vision of something a little cartoonish, but also not like overstating the point of it. Like something, I kept referring to it as like something kind of like a throwback to early custom pedal days when all the designs were super Spartan on them, like the prunes and custard and stuff like that.
Yeah, everything was in Comic Sans.
Yeah, it just felt felt right. It felt. Because I've had this for a while. Anyone who knows me knows I love pedals, and I've gotten asked throughout various stages of my life if I could make a pedal, what would it be? And a lot of people, I think, might think I would have come up with something a bit more extravagant than what we ultimately came up with, and not for.
Well, to be fair, we went through some ideas. We did go back and forth on some things. We could some of them more abrasive than others, that's for sure. But I think we landed on something really, really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we tried. We talked ring modulator for a second. We talked about an octaver. And ultimately, what we ended up getting was a preamp pedal out of it, based on something else that was cool, but felt limited. What Jordan and I kind of came to appreciate is that within this price point, in like the $150 price point, there really isn't another pedal in this weight class that has as many features as it does. You're lucky if you get a tone knob out of them.
No, totally. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Right? It's like it's a preamp pedal of its quality that has that kind of like old, if you were to go back to the lineage of what that topology actually is, it's like the preamp from like an old Akai tape machine, like essentially is what it is. That's what the preamp section, it's actually like a one transistor preamp, like, and sometimes with those super simple transistor circuits, like you really just lean into the character of that one gain stage, and I think it really did that well. I think that came out really cool, and I'm happy about it. I think it's kind of got like kind of a crisp edge to it. But with the, we also have an active EQ at the end of it, which makes a big difference in what you're, if you're using that thing to like slam another pedal, like what frequencies you're using to do that, it's pretty substantial, So if you want the warmth, you can get the warmth. If you want to roll off the sparkle, you can do that too, like there's, and the mids control too. That was, I think, the one we paid the most attention to when we were talking about what frequency bands we wanted to use. But that was one of my favorite ways to do an approach like this, right? Is like, I was like, you play with an EQ pedal and you do this and you run this into this and tell me what frequency bands you want, and then we'll focus on that. That's the only way we really could have made it work without being face to face. And I'm pretty happy with the end result myself,
Oh man, for sure. It was really cool that was basically where it would have gone anyway. Running a 10-band EQ after the aforementioned pedal that I had been appreciating yet wanted more of, and getting to sort of take the best tones off of that I could and shave off what I thought was excessive or try to improve them to the best of my ability, and just sent you the moves I made, a variety of different settings that seemed to be the most agreeable with it, and ultimately that ended up shaping the voice of the pedal even at Unity a bit differently. The pedal,
Yeah, sure.
That's where this gets interesting to me, is on its own. If you leave the tone stack out of it entirely, the pedal intrinsically, I've been calling it kind of a more switch, because I seem to remember that, like, the Joe Satriani Saturator, he called his boost a more, and it was, I don't remember if it was anything different than a boost, or if he just saw it as like, it's supposed to give you more of what you already have rather than just like a clean boost. But this, like you said, it has this character, and when you use it a certain way, when you leave it wide open, it basically just gives you more of the amp, even on mode 2. Like, I've been referring to it opposite of you, where we've got this clipping rotary stack rather than any switching or buttons that takes you through a series of configurations of diodes and such. And I've been going right to left because for whatever reason, to me, having it wide open seems like the starting point.
Yeah. No, we should talk more about that too. I mean, to the effect of more is more good or whatever. When we did the first ever Poison Noises pedal, which was like about 4 years ago now, which is crazy to think about, was this one that I have tattooed on my hand. And that's it was a really simple fuzz circuit. Again, a 1 transistor fuzz circuit that you can see in there, and the volume knob on it was more, because that's what it was. It was more, and then I think the tone knob was even more. I'm pretty sure those were the only two parameters on it.
By the way, do hand tattoos hurt? Like, I keep asking everybody because I want to get a hand tattoo eventually.
Sure. So this one I got in Puerto Rico, and if I was saying I was completely sober when I got it, I'd be lying. And so, but I have had it touched up since, like, recently, and it's not that bad. But like on this one, clearly I've got way more ink.
Well,
you know
that's
what I mean?
A chunky
so that's
boy
got
right there.
Yeah. So, but no, so far those weren't that bad. I just got this one done that I'm pretty happy about. I got.
Yeah.
This
you got that in England, right?
No, this one I actually got here. So cool enough, there's a dude literally, so I'm in my shop right now, literally like 2 doors down from me in the same building is a tattoo artist, my buddy Nick. And
That's so cool.
And so now, we've been throwing around the idea of like, wouldn't it be cool if we did like, hey, anyone who gets this Poison Noises tattaoo gets a free pedal? Like, we've been throwing that idea around. We'll see,
Do not tempt me, because I've. So I can't really show it because I'm wearing layers, but I have a tattoo of one of the bands I'm in. I have the singer tattooed on my arm.
Oh, cool.
His name is Daryl, and he drew sort of a caricature of himself. And I looked at that, and I just had this thought, like, I could see this etched on my body forever. And, he didn't know I was going to do this. We went down to Nashville, recorded an album, and it went really, really well. And we were just riding this high, and bass player and I go into town, grab a drink, and split up. He wanted a fried bologna sandwich. I wanted ice cream, so we parted ways. And I was like, you know what? If I stumble into a parlor with a walk-in, I'm getting this. We're commemorating it just like that. And I did. Yeah. He didn't know I was getting it. I come back. I take the dressing off, and he figures out what I've done, and his legs give out under him.
That's great. It's funny too, to that effect also, in kind of the same vein here. I don't know about you. I bleed like crazy when I get tattoos because I'm super anemic. I've got no iron in my blood. So like that just
even
pours
on the
out of
thinner
me.
line work?
Not as much. You know what's funny? My hands were great. The hands didn't like bleed all, but on my forearms, dude, it's like I put that Sanoderm stuff over it, and it just kind of, I get like that bubbly, inky, bloody
like
goodness,
a little baggie of plasma.
Yeah. So I just got the Poison Noises logo touched up yesterday, and I had the Sanoderm on. I woke up this morning, I was like, that can't be on me. That's just gross looking, And I had like bands coming in to like check out collabs and stuff I was working on. I was like, I can't just be walking around with this. So,
with like a little water balloon, like it's almost like a blister at that point.
Yeah,
like, it's not so
gross.
bad, actually. For me, so all my tattoos are line work, and
cool.
most of them are very small. Like this is one of my more recent ones. I got a meme tattooed on me. It's silence but getting faster. And
I love that.
Right? Like it's and a friend of mine, she had the idea that I should get it as a band around my wrist, and I was like, I didn't I would have never thought of that. And
it's hard to see. Is it just a bunch of rests?
Yeah,
is that what it is all the way around?
Like there's a whole note rest and then a couple of half note rests, and then all of a sudden, by the way, it's eighth notes by the time it sort of spins back around.
Yeah, right. That's super funny. It's like hurry up and stop.
Yep,
It's
silence getting faster, and
that's awesome.
And like the original meme's like, this is making me so anxious, and I'm like, I love stupid things. By the way,
yeah, that's great. No, that's excellent. I love that so much.
I just found out about a song, so I guess to get us into what we've been sort of towing towards talking blood-related stuff and a blood-themed pedal pun. I just found out about a song by King Missile called Hemophiliac of Love, like this week,
Rad.
Which came out the year I was born. And
oh, cool.
I am now taking that as a prophecy foretelling my birth, because I am the hemophiliac of love now, apparently.
Yeah.
It's just,
I love that.
It sounds like something, like I don't drink anymore, but like when I was really, really in the sauce, it sounds like the kind of bullshit I would have come up with, like clinging to what my wife calls the just in case bucket. Like just completely like blackout drunk. I am the hemophiliac of love. Like it just
right. It sounds like a parody of like a Steve Miller song or something like that.
It feels like something I should just make everybody refer to me as now, just from now on. I am.
Well, so I remember, I think we had this conversation already when we were talking about the name of the pedal. Like, I'm type O negative. Like, that's by blood type. Are you also?
No, I'm O positive, which is its own little
You're O positive,
ironic thing because I can't donate at all.
Right. Yeah, I can't really either. So.
Yeah,
but it's like
I mean, and that's in your case, that's particularly unfortunate because that is particularly scarce.
Yeah, everybody needs that, So yeah, but no, I remember when you dropped the name on there, I was like, ooh, okay, now it's coming back around, So no, I was stoked to see that.
It's my buddy Nick who plays guitar for me a lot, and he's one of my, I call them canaries, like my friends who kind of, they give me a long lead on things, they give me a wide berth, so when they do talk up, I listen. It's like a canary in a coal mine sort of thing. So like I brought up what we were doing to him, and he came to me with that actually, and I'm just like,
oh, okay, rad.
But that is too good because I think I was trying to lean into the tape head part at first. I wanted to call it the sizzle reel or something like that.
Sure. And
I even had a mock-up of a logo for that would have been a little more Josh Scott themed, a little more of a like a just an icon. Of a
that minimalist kind of thing. Yeah. Right.
I mean, I'm definitely happy with where this went because it is a little goofier, and that is a little bit, sometimes it can be hard to convey personality through content or through
right. No, totally.
And I love that because I had a buddy come by, and of course I'm showing all my buddies this thing. I'm just like, look at my cool new toy, guys, and. It's exactly what it feels like. Like I got a new Transformer for Christmas, and I'm just sharing my toys with my friends now. And
dude, that's the best part. I mean, that's why I started doing it over here in my local scene because I'm in upstate New York, and all the bands around here, like this whole concept started. I was at like a local basement show, and I knew a bunch of the bands that were playing, and I was like. You know what my dream, this is like, 4 or 5 beers in. I'm like, what my ideal, dream for this is like, I make a pedal for every band in the area and they just trade them like Pokemon cards. You know what I mean? That was like the whole, I want to like go see someone's board and he traded his for this one with this other band and they play a lot of shows together. And hopefully one day someone just has a whole board made of just the pedals from these collabs, but you're the first one I've done completely, via mail and messenger. You're the first one I've ever done this with, which was cool, and it's funny that like you're also the first one I'm doing this thing over the Zoom call with. So,
we were able to move really quickly.
In terms of turnaround, it was quick. I mean, it was like we've only been really talking about this. I think for like it's got to be under 2 months, right? I mean, if you really think about it, maybe a little bit more because just over.
Like
okay,
because a week before Christmas, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Okay, you're right, because I also had my trip in between then, so that makes sense. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy, because you also got a pretty big batch of them. I mean, how many of these things did we make? Did we make 30 total to start? Is that what we have?
We made 30 of them, and I'm doing everything I can to make demand for Mark II. And
Rad. Yeah. Oh, I'm down to make more of those. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the only thing we haven't really talked about on it is the fact that, well, two things. One, you can run it at 18.
Yes, you can.
That's one thing about it, which is cool if you like that high headroom thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing is that clipping stage we were talking about. So other pedals that had similar topologies, one thing you see that was pretty uniform in them is that they all have different combinations of diodes that you can put in it. And so what we did is we put it on a rotary of like essentially like your 4 favorites of like the settings that we liked for it, and we make it so it like goes up in headroom as it goes. So like
that was how
the
that
first one
that was.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that was what we took away from those from the switching configurations was were just legit combos. That's really cool.
Yeah. So like the first one is essentially it's 2 germanium diodes, like tested germanium diodes for like the right forward voltage drop and everything. And then after that, it's just like silicon, which would be like 1N4148. So that's like the tube screamer diodes. After that, it's a hybrid of a BAT41 and a red LED actually is what they are. Is like a weird, and it just clips just a little bit of dirt on there. And then the last one is no diodes, which is wide open, which I think ended up being your favorite, like you said, right? That's what you used it the most for. You just got the clipping characteristics of the transistor driving into the next stage, right?
A little bit. I've actually been living a lot on the combination LED and the silicon modes because they're very similar to each other. Like the graduation between them. In terms of headroom and compression is similar, at least in sort of the mid-gain area. It's more apparent if you're diming it, of course, but...
Right, yeah. That's where you're going to hear them the most, no doubt. That's where you're going to be rolling off the most, the biggest part of those waves. The bigger you make the wave, the more you're going to be cutting off of it, you know? So
but you end up
that totally
with this
makes sense.
Really great sort of... It just sort of settles in. It like once you get a little bit of compression in there and a little bit of extra clipping, you end up with something that has a little bit more heft, but also a freakish amount of clarity, even on the highest settings, even in the most compressed, because all the way to the left is a significant drop in volume. That's the thing. That's the fun part is you've got these 3 settings that subtly graduate in headroom and compression, slowly sort of throttling it as you go to the left. And then when you go all the way to the left, it's a distinct volume drop you have to compensate for. That's a commitment. But it's also
that's heavy punchy compression. That's the germanium thing, baby. That's what that hot ticket word is all about. Is you're clipping the hell out of it, and then you got to bring it back up. It's just compression at the end of the day. That's really what you're doing. That's like the whole thing about the Klon is like, there's like the whole, because it is the same diodes as the Klon. We'll put that in there. We should write that on the box somewhere. But it's like it's the same diodes. So 1N34As. So the interesting part about that is
I'll put it in the copy.
Yeah, totally. So the interesting part about that is most people like kind of use the Klon as like a clean boost, and then they turn the gain like all the way down. But when you turn it all the way down, like you were just talking about, like if you turn the gain all the way down, you're not really touching the diodes as much. So it's like everyone like swears by this part of the Klon that like they're not even really using. But in my opinion, that's what makes the Klon so great is that when you turn up the volume, turn up the gain, it does kind of compress like a whole bunch, and that's what I like about it personally.
And there's this freakish transparency that in certain settings really does kind of sound like there's a clean blend at play.
I think that's probably because it's a one transistor circuit. The more gain stages you have, the less of your original signal you're kind of getting through. Like you start, it's like, if you run a pedal through a pedal through a pedal through a pedal, eventually like it doesn't even sound like your guitar anymore, right? So like same thing with different stages. Like if we had 6 transistors in a row, it probably wouldn't sound much like your original signal anymore. I mean, but you start thinking about it, it's like a big muff is 4. It's 4. Okay. It's actually it's the same transistor that they have in modern big muffs is what's in that right now. Funny enough. So when you start thinking about it that way, it's like, with just one transistor, you're not getting, you're not gritting it up and gritting it up and gritting it up. It's just kind of that one. It does what a transistor is supposed to do, which is, just amplify things. And if you amplify into another amplifier, that's when things start getting gritty. So, if you just run just the transistor and you don't clip it at all, it's going to be pretty organic sounding, which is sometimes what people want out of a preamp. Sometimes they want the opposite. Sometimes they want like bone crushing, like distortion. Sometimes it's the opposite thing. But that's like in tandem with a 3-band active EQ, like that.
Yeah,
that's
you,
the big.
You have this
that's the big
interesting. Even as you like all the way up gain, like you can hear on the maximum amount of saturation, on the maximum amount of compression, like you can definitely hear the hair starting to come in, but it's still again very clean on the forefront. It's almost like the borders are getting rougher or something. And I'd never thought about it the way you put it, but it does make sense in that way, that your tone is staying at the forefront, and it gives me a whole other look. It's actually, in a way, when I was shooting the demos for this pedal, I was with my buddies who were helping me shoot this, and we were just messing around the first day I had it, and we came out with feeling almost like our whole philosophy on how we looked at gain staging was sort of upended, because this is, like you said, it's a super simple circuit, and it stays simple in a way that I feel like not a whole lot of pedals are, as you've put it this way. Like this feels like there's less going on, but still somehow more because of that tone stack, and the tone stack alone, like the way I've been talking to people about it, like even if you never touch the diodes, that EQ is powerful stuff. It is. Oh yeah, definitely. It is some powerful stuff, and you're not.
Yeah, so that's what we call like a gyrator style EQ, which is like a funny phrase for it, but that's like that kind of topology. That's all like op amp based. So it's funny that like we go from like dirty transistor with like a high HFE and just a one stage into an EQ that's like, it's like a TL074 is the op amp in there, which is like, that's like the SM58 of op amps. It's like, or like in every cop movie, they have a 9mm, you know what I mean? It's just like the one you see everywhere, you know what I mean?
It's
or whatever.
Like super
so it's like,
file.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's like, when you start to see those and stuff, it's kind of like, it's very common, but it is an articulate chip, and it is like kind of the opposite. It's just clarity. So to have that, all the way through that thing is you can maintain original tone if you want it, but that EQ is powerful, both in boost and in cut. You can do quite a bit with it. So it's a lot of tone sculpting is possible with that, But so I'm really stoked with the way it came out, but it's just like almost the juxtaposition between those two things, like they're clear for different reasons, I think it was. It's a culmination of a lot of really cool ideas that actually didn't take us that long to put together. So I'm pretty satisfied with that.
I went back and I looked at the communication just to see exactly what it took for us to get there, and like the second I sent over the guts of the other thing, you're like, you know what, we could do this, and it could be, and I was like, I wish it had this, and you're like, that's not hard at all. And then just
right.
And you're right. It almost feels like two separate pedals working at once in a way.
Totally. And one night, and we fit it inside of a 125B, one nice uniform size pedal. I love when that happens. So some other things that are on that pedal, that's on a lot of my stuff that you might not even know. I don't know how much have you opened those up or anything yet, but they all have buffer bypass or true bypass in them. You can switch on the bottom. They'll let you have either one. And there's also that little hole at the bottom of the pedal that you can put a screwdriver into, and you can adjust the brightness of the LED. That is a very underrated thing in pedals that everyone sees it like
that's novel to you. You're the first person I've ever seen do that.
Yeah, and it's just such a silly thing too, man, because it's like, I used to be the polar opposite. I used to be like, how bright can I get this LED? Like you look at like old school, like gluttonous fuzz stuff, and it's like you're like shining like the bat signal on the ceiling when you step on it, and it's
funny
just
you
funny
have it on
like,
your hand, because one of my favorite pedals for a long time that I had on my board was the TWA Triskele Harmonic Energizer Mark II. And that one in particular, so those guys had a very interesting methodology to how they would route things, like having the input and output both be on the right side of the pedal and not necessarily marked well. I found it confusing, but one of the more interesting things, and I love this pedal. I adore this pedal. I've recorded all over with it. But one of the more interesting things about it is that the LEDs on it are roughly the size of triskelion shape, or triskelion, whatever the hell it is, shape, and they're on, like, when the pedal has power, their default is glowing red, and then when you kick it on, this halogen yellow comes out and blinds you immediately. So I gaffed the hell out of that almost immediately. Like,
yeah, the one that got it for me, that made me start doing it, was I sent a Crook V1 to Andy Hull from Manchester Orchestra, which was like, you know, especially at that time, they were like one of my favorite bands. And I sent it to him, and like 6 months later, he's like, dude, it's on my board. I'm using it for the whole tour. You come catch the show. Come do this. And he sent me a picture of it, and he's got tape over the LED because it's so bright. I was like, man, all right, I got to figure that out.
Did that feel? Was that like a little like not cringe or anything, but like, was it just like a oh no moment?
It made it feel like you got like one question wrong on the test. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it felt. But yeah, right. But I've sent him a couple of versions of it since then. And what's funny is, like, I've sent him the V3, the V5. He might even have a 4. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the V1 is still on his board with just the the little piece of gaff tape on it.
And I've wondered. I'm actually may go through the pedals myself. Each one of the ones you sent over, just to see if there's any difference between them. Like, I definitely wonder about that sometimes.
I think we're hang on one second. I got the Zoom thing just popped up. Let me see here.
Oh, I see it.
Cool. Yeah. So we might just have to restart it. If we got to restart it, that's fine. As long as our cameras keep rolling, I can edit. That being said, let's talk about. Let's see. I see you have a guitar in your hand right now. Is that to lead me to believe that you actually could give us a little bit of a demo if we wanted to?
Absolutely. I've got a little...
Ooh, I love that.
Right? I mean, I thought that was implied. You know, and
you'd be surprised, man. Over Zoom, some people don't have that capability to be able to play stuff, but we are recording in post also.
We are, and I do run a recording studio, so that is a luxury on my end.
Rad.
Yeah,
cool,
and
cool,
this is that, and we opened back in May after a big old fire that actually that really sort of, I think I got my first one-ear pedals after the fire, but before we relocated, so I was testing out. I was a dirt nap. I got a dirt nap.
Yeah, that's right. I don't make those anymore. You got a rare one there.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right. Because this is one of the ones before you updated it.
Is it just orange all the way around? It's that pedal, or is it orange with black sides?
It is orange all the way around, and it has 2 switches rather than 3.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, that's a V1.
Ooh, wow, first edition.
Actually, technically, there is one that's like a brown one that were like hand painted with like a rattle can. There's like maybe like less than 10 of those in existence, but I'm pretty sure just all my idiot friends have those.
Oh god,
so I'm pretty sure, but I think that's just like a 3-knob one. I'm pretty sure, but that's also like a preamp thing. That's like a DoD 250, Distortion Plus kind of circuit. So that thing's pretty rad.
I dig on that, and it's become like an always on sort of thing for me. And I was, when I beat it with the with the Tapo neg, I was able to actually get very similar tones out of it at first, which was
did I knock one of my own pedals off your board? Is that what happened?
No. It just didn't overtake.
It
didn't overtake the dirt nap's position. I had thought because the dirt nap would be a higher gain circuit that I would end up using that as, where the Tapo neg is sitting in my rig right now is kind of more like a dirty boost. Because I feel like its character blends well with the dirt nap versus the other way around.
Sure. That makes sense.
It does, and I've been using the dirt nap in kind of a, match the amp, but get a little bit more way. Like you find your filter notch, and you sort of, I don't know, you almost Nuno Betancourt it a little bit. Like, because I sort of treat it like a rat. That makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Because it's
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I sort of thought it was at first with the filter sweep on it, and it's funny because it's also a very subtle pedal until you really get it going.
Yeah, again, kind of technically just one gain stage in that. It's an op amp stage, but it is just one stage.
And it gets hairy at the end and real hairy, but before that, at first I was like, is my shit broken? Like I was worried that I was that I had, because it didn't seem like it was doing anything at first. Because
Sure.
it's that subtle until you really get it cooking.
Yep. There's a lot of people who swear by that particular thing. It's also, you think about like, in terms of distortion circuits, like that topology is one of the first. You saw it in like the DoD, the Distortion Plus. There was like an Arion one.
Yeah.
Kind of comes out like the same time as the Rat. You know what I mean? But different topology, different chipsets for those. But you take junky chips and then you build the schematic that is in the data sheet, and then you screw it up a little bit. That's how they figured it out. But
Oh yeah.
let's do this, man.
half of our
I definitely want to hear what it sounds like. So let's I've played it a whole bunch.
Yep.
I'm sure the people do. We're about 30 minutes into this thing already. You and me just gabbing. Let's give the people some tones. Let's get at least like a solid, like, let's see how much time we got left on this particular meeting. We got like 5 or 6 minutes left. So why don't you rip it up and tell us some of the different settings and stuff.
Hell yeah. Right now I've got it on, looks like I've got it on the silicon diode. Gain is close to 3 o'clock. I've got the treble backed off slightly. Mids even slighter, bass at unity. That's just where it's at right now. Clean tone,
Okay, cool.
And that's kind of like a nice mushy sort of a thing right there.
Sure.
Yeah,
is that
let
like
me,
your go-to setting for the most part, or is there other stuff you kind of lean into more?
This is probably a little heavier than I would typically set it.
Okay, cool.
Like I would do something a bit more like this, I think. This is the combination, the LED and less gain. A little more volume, and you just end up with like a... if I'm doing it in context, it's a little brighter.
Sure.
And it's still got a little bit of an edge, but if I throw on the dirt nap with it, let's see just where that goes.
Stack them.
Almost. There it is. Yeah, like it's a very malleable thing that really does lean in with your pick attack a lot. And I've got a compressor going too. I've got this J-Rocket IQ, which is like a compressor EQ.
Yep, I know the one.
Oh man, it's so pointy and heavy and cool. And it actually worked better than a different compressor that I'd had on my board forever, which is, I still love it. It's the Empress compressor, which is just kind of like a 500 series.
Yeah.
And a classic.
Yeah, I know the one.
But you get, something like this, there's just a little bit less going on in some ways. And I'll take it wide open now. If I take out like the bass, it's just so apparent. Like if you're trying to add more definition to like a Les Paul or something, you're gonna end up having a good time with that.
or carve out a little room for your bass player too, you know?
Oh, yeah, but just the way it thickens out, that's clean. Like, it gives it a little more grunt, but it doesn't mush out. And for context, I've got the bass knob dimed right now.
Cool.
It's
That's what I figured.
It's the least obnoxious bass knob I've ever played with.
Well, I appreciate that.
I didn't know you could make them not as like overbearing and mushy, but when you start to introduce the EQ circuit, like other pedals start reacting to it differently too, which is great. Same sort of deal, less bass, bit more mids. Let's put more treble in it, a little bit more gain. Mode 2. And at that point, that's kind of where I would keep it, is in this sort of hefty jangle place, and you throw out this like. You add more with the dirt nap, and sort of off you go.
Cool. So yeah, man, I'm glad you've got a whole bunch of sounds that you like in that thing. I'm definitely pretty proud of that one. I've let some very cool people play that as well. My roommate was especially obsessed with it too. He was really, really into it. He was slamming a whole bunch of amps with it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, man. No, I'm stoked on that one. Especially the bands we picked for the EQ just ended up kind of being the right spot for that pedal. I think we hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Let's see here. All right, let's do this. Let's play the game. So I've got 3 games for you that I set up last night. Pick a number between 1 and 3. We'll decide which one we're going to start with.
2.
2. All right. Let's see here. Ooh, cool. So let me set this up for the slideshow. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Figure the rig. All right, cool. So I think I told you before, this one is this one's got a little twist to it for you. And I think based on things we've talked about, I think this is going to be, it's either you're going to be like, maybe not, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to kind of, discern what I'm going for here.
All
so the way Figure the Rig works is I show you a guitar, an amp, and 2 pedals, and you have to try and figure out what artist I am trying to emulate. That's the game here. So we play this one a lot. This one's one of my favorites. We're going to start with number 1. Here we go.
That's fun because I don't know anyone who uses the prunes and custard outside of this one session dude that I met a year ago. Like, I hadn't seen that pedal in years.
Right.
I really, just based on that guitar alone, my guess is Robin Fink.
Boom, dude, you hit it. You hit it on. So I'm going to let you know what it is right now because we've talked a lot about Reverend stuff before. Every single person on this list is a Reverend player. Every single one.
That's awesome, and I love those guys.
I figured. I thought this was going to be a fun one to do. So yeah, boom, knocked that one out. Love that. That's one of the obscure ones too.
I
All right,
love
let's move
Robin
on.
Fink. Like I
oh, dude, hell yeah, dude. I showed this to my roommate and a couple of friends I had over last night, and they were like, "Oh, we don't really know him." Like they knew 9 Inch Nails, obviously. I'm like, "Oh, you guys gotta." You guys got to educate.
Fun fact: the CeeLo Green song "Fuck You, Forget You." That's him playing guitar on it.
I've heard that before. I didn't know if that was true or not, but someone told me that when that song dropped. That's funny. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Of course, his stuff on Chinese Democracy is actually outstanding.
Yeah, dude.
The guitar solo on Better, like in particular, is super, super good.
He is the shining part of that album, in my opinion.
Between him and Richard Fortus, like those two guys rule. And
all right, let's move on. Yep. Let's move on to the next one.
Oh, come on. It's the dude from Zwan, right?
No.
No? Not the dude from Zwan. Not Billy Corgan?
No, it is Billy Corgan. I haven't listened to Smashing Pumpkins, though, from Swan. What is Swan? I don't know what Swan is.
Swan with a Z.
Okay.
They had it was what Billy Corgan did in the early 2000s. They had a song called Honestly that was a hit, and it's the only time Billy Corgan's ever sounded happy in his life, and ironically was a time in which he was also miserable. But it's that
Sure.
there's no place that I couldn't be without you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do know that tune.
Yeah,
That's funny. I didn't know that. That's
it was
rad.
him and the drummer from Smashing Pumpkins plus David Pajo from Tortoise, Paslin Shanton from A Perfect Circle, and
like Jimmy Chamberlain. That's who the drummer
Chamberlain
was.
and that dude Matt Sweeney who does like shitloads of interviews.
Yeah.
The guitar moves.
Oh,
dude.
that's rad.
It was like a weird,
I love that.
It was a cool moment of like the weird brightness of late 90s, early 2000s alt rock in that. I would definitely recommend. I really hope he gets over himself and puts that stuff out again.
Well, let's do it. We got a couple more of these to go through, and I want to make sure we have time for the other games too. So let's do it. Let's fire through.
Is that Mike Watt?
Dude, look at you knocking these out of the park. I love this. I think I chose my audience right for this one. I'm stoked on it. All right, moving on.
Okay, this one you might have gotten me on. You definitely might have gotten me on this one.
It's a little tougher.
Yeah, I was gonna say this almost makes me think of. I mean, I feel like you've deviated by not showing me an actual signature model this time. This is just kind of like a weird Reverend Six Gun.
It is technically a signature.
It's not the Gil Paris thing, is it? It's not Gil
Nope.
Paris. And it's not Rick Vito. And I have no idea. You got me on this one. Ron Ashton.
From the Stooges.
Yeah.
I just found this out recently that he was like an early, player of the Reverend stuff. I mean, because I'm pretty sure he died in 2009 or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's one of the original. I had no idea. I learned that myself.
I knew he had a volcano, a V with
Yes, he did have a V. You're right. I intentionally didn't put that one up because I thought that would be a little too obvious. But yes, that was
sly fox.
Well, I had to get you on one of them, So all right, we're moving on.
Moving on. And of course, that's got to be Reeves Gabriel's.
You got it, man. You got that. So he's actually played one of your tapos. He played Serial Number 6. So give that to whoever wants one that's been played by Reeves before. But yeah, man, that's Figure the Rig. You hit that one. You only missed one. That's relatively impressive as far as I'm concerned. So, but yeah, that's one of my favorite games we have. I love Figure the Rig. That's one of my favorites. All right, pick a number 1 or 3.
Let's go with 1.
1. All right. This is a crowd pleaser one here. So let me set this up again. Boo.
This
all
is
right.
like being
No
on
peeking.
Family
No
Feud
peeking.
for me. I love because I've been following along on the game show. I'm just gonna fucking call it a game show because that's basically what you're doing.
You're right. All right. I think I'm ready to go.
All right.
Nug or Chug. Everybody loves
Chug.
Nug or Chug. So the premise of this game is I'm going to name some series of words, and you have to tell me if it is Nug or if it is Chug. Chug is a guitar pedal. Nug is obvious. We're going to start with the first one. Cloud Chaser.
That's a pedal.
No, it's an indica. Is what
Oh
it is,
God, I'm
actually.
thinking of Cloud Climber. Cloud Climber. No.
These are curveballs here. This one's a little bit
Stumbled
harder,
right
I
out
think.
the
We'll
gate.
see. You're good. Moving on. Green Martian.
Nug.
No, it's a pedal.
Son of
I'm so glad I'm getting you on this one. I'm so
This
glad I'm
is-
getting you on this one. All right, moving on. Spring Solstice.
I hate you so much right now. This is amazing. I'm going with Nug again. And I'm still
Ooh, you got one. You got one
Yay.
on me. Yeah, Sativa. All right, nice. Good move. Next one. Dirty Taxi.
We sure that's not like a PS1 video game?
Right, the rated A for adult version, right?
Yeah, and rated M for mature.
Yeah, right.
I'm going with Chug.
No, it's a hybrid strain of Nug. Moving on to the next one. Hairy Squid.
Oh, come on. That's got to be a pedal. That's got to be.
Yeah, you got me on that one. Hairy Squid is, in fact, a pedal.
I was due.
And
it had to be
we got
number
one
C
left.
sometime. I also
Stone
feel
Burner.
like that's a pedal. Like, that's got to be some kind of, like, a treble booster or something.
Stone Burner?
Yeah.
All right. It's a Way Huge pedal. I always have a Way Huge pedal in here somewhere. All of their pedals just sound like Nug. Like every single one of them does.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
So that is Nug or Chug. You did pretty good on that one. I got to give it to you. You did not as good as the last one, but you did pretty good on that one.
I got a little cocky.
All right, last game I have for you is not really a game show thing. This is more of just a discussion for me and you.
Yes.
Well, I feel like you and I will just ramble on this one forever, so let's try to keep this one short between you and I, because I know you and I are both opinionated in these categories.
Oh, yeah, we're going to hot takes.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're not keeping everyone awake through this when I put it together, or trying to put them to sleep or whatever. So let's do this. I'm going to set up another screen share. No peeking, no peeking, no peeking. And share. And that screen share. Set it to slideshow. Boom. All right. The game is Whale Scale. The way Whale Scale works is I show you a guitar player, and we have to come up to a common agreement on whether they are overrated or underrated. So 0 is overrated. 10 is underrated, is the way that it works. And you and I have to try and come up with a number on where we think this person sits.
Great.
That's the game. All right.
Great.
First character on our lineup. Adam Jones from Tool.
Oh, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky
I
one.
agree.
Because I hate Tool fans.
Right, yeah. Like, music's good, like, for sure. Not my favorite, but good, definitely. Definitely incredibly talented musicians. Definitely one of those bands that's knocked down a few pegs
Really
because
thoughtful
of who they
guitar
are.
player. Really, I appreciate Adam Jones as a human being, knowing what I know about his consideration of visuals and effects, that he's I think they're visual artist as well. Like, he had a background in props and shit, and the music videos, I think, are like his brainchildren. And so, like, I think he's an incredibly well-realized artist, and I adore that about him. I would go toward underrated by that merit, just given the scope of what he does, because it's almost like he's almost like Jerry Cantrell in a way.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. He's a big part of that band. I think thoughtful is a good word for you used there. The band would not be the same without him. But I put him at like 6. You know, like, I think he exists in the realm of where he's supposed to be, but definitely a little more underrated.
Yeah, I would say you're right. I would go with 6. I'm not gonna push on that.
We'll call it 6. Stevie Ray Vaughan.
God damn it. I'm going to upset some people.
Dude, me too. I had a feeling you would feel like this.
What, that I find
also.
Stevie Ray Vaughan overrated?
Yeah, man. I don't get it. I mean, I understand that he was like, a lot of people saw him as like second coming of Jimmy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy to me. I think like the opposite. Like, where like, I think maybe like, don't get me wrong, ballin' guitar player for sure, and like has his own flavor, his own style, but definitely like I put him at like a 4, maybe a 3. You know what I mean?
I would
like
go
that's
with
kind of where I
3
feel.
too. Like, I'm bummed because it would have been interesting to see, like, he got further in his life than Hendrix did. He definitely got a little bit more, and he got more, like, he was part of that weird MTV generation that had music videos to deal with. Like, Jimi Hendrix and music videos would have been a weird consideration. Sidebar, but
I'm with you on that. I agree.
I don't know. He's one of those guys I would have been curious how he would have aged as well. But I definitely, if I'm going for Texas blues, I'm going other places.
I agree. All right, we'll call it a 3. We'll move on to the next guy. Kevin Shields of My Bloody Valentine.
I have no fucking idea what he sounds like.
He sounds like just reverb into fuzz. Like that's the thing. That's he like the word shoegaze I think comes from this band.
Oh, I gotta go with it too. I mean, I know them. I know My Bloody Valentine. I think he's important, but I think other people do it better. He just kind of did it first and most.
Yeah, and whenever you see interviews, he doesn't really like recall what the gear he used was to do it. And that's like, whatever. You experiment, you plug into things, but that obviously hurts my soul. You know what I mean? Like I wanted I'm very meticulous and very intentional with the stuff that I do and use. But
and here he's like an inversion of Adam Jones in a way. Because
so I'm gonna put him closer to like 4 personally, 4 or 5. You're saying like a 3, or you said like a 2.
Yeah, I don't know why that extreme, but that was a reflex of
maybe we meet me somewhere in the middle around 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm not
we can do
like
that.
I have my response, but it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. I'm sure you've got one of those for me though.
Oh yeah, well we'll see what we got. Zakk Wylde. I have him just credited as every BS biker metal band ever. That's where I put him at. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's who I think of when I think about that kind of music.
So can we make a distinction between overrated and oversaturated?
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like when I was like, I don't know, maybe when I was like 13, like he was just like, he was the guitar player that was just like on everything.
He was the commodified guitar player. Like that's what I mean.
Sure.
Like so much of the Zakk Wylde iconography, it has so much more to do with that bullseye and those signature pedals that
it's like the same thing with like Eddie Van Halen and like the Frankenstein stripe stuff, except I put Eddie Van Halen on definitely a different tier than I do Zakk Wylde, so I think maybe in the same realm personally, like 3 or 4 is where I put him. I'd say maybe closer to 4 for him because he is definitely like a guitar hero. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely on like the Mount Rushmore of his era for sure. And he's not Randy Rhoads. That's how I feel about that.
About the almost the merchandise driven Zakk Wylde machine. Book of the Dead is like that acoustic record is. Mm-hmm. There's like this video of him. He's clean shaven. He's jacked. Manhandling a 12-string singing this song, and it's amazing. Like it's soulful, it's beautiful. Like I want more of that from him instead of the posturing.
I'm with you. Well, what are we calling it? I say 4.
Okay.
4? Okay, I'm with it. Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. This one's a little divisive.
Show me Bob Dylan who can play guitar.
I'll be honest. I mean, I have an affinity for him because he's got a red Strat, and red Fenders are like my thing. But this dude, especially what he did with pedals back in the day, pretty underrated in my mind. To be honest, I put him at like
pedals.
Think about like he just had the ability to like have stuff, kind of to the effect of what we were talking about with the Tapo, where it's like not really as driven as you think, but because of the way he plays it, it is. But you think about that riff, Money for Nothing, like that's like a half-cocked wah thing, but he makes it sound like a ring mod. You know what I mean? I mean, he's also just a phenomenal player. Like he's one of those dudes who has sound in his hands.
Yeah, no, he's gonna sound like him, and that is a sound that launched 1,000 ships.
Totally. So I personally, I thought about this really hard last night, and I was talking to some other people. He goes like 7 or 8 for me.
God, I gotta say, I do think. Yeah, fuck it. Can we do a 6 because all I can think of is Walk of Life now, and I love Walk of Life because it has the 80s shoulder shimmy dance going through.
You want 6, I want 8. How about we meet at 7?
Okay.
All right, that's it. I think. Oh wait, last one. Here we go. I forgot about this one.
Okay.
How do you feel about Prince?
I think princeliness is next to godliness. If not,
I feel everybody loves Prince. People forget how ripping of a guitar player he is.
I actually I had this conversation. I had this realization the other day. We talk about Michael Jackson breaking race barriers for radio play, when Prince in the 70s had a shred guitar solo in a song on the black charts.
Oh, yeah.
Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad? Like,
right.
Oh my God, that solo if anybody needs, like, oh, well, I mean, the Super Bowl, he ruined the halftime show for everybody after him.
That's interesting.
Like, my mother,
that's an interesting
that was, watching that was a transformative moment. Dirty Mind is one of my favorite, like as far as who I am and what I aspire to be, Prince.
You know what's funny? You know what song I always think about that's very underrated is what the heck's the name of that song? Never Take the Place of Your Man. I think that's the name of the tune. Do you remember that one? It's like kind of got like a synthy intro.
Which one's that off of?
Oh goodness, I can't remember. It's an '80s tune, definitely an '80s tune.
There's just so much.
Dude, he has so many records. He has so many. That's the other part about it too. Is he's just, I don't know. To land the plane on this, I think 8 or 9. Maybe.
Yeah,
I think he's an
with
incredibly
9.
underrated guitar player.
I think he's an incredibly underrated guitar player, and even if you think you know what he's doing, like he's doing everything. Like that.
Dude,
that he was
totally.
that self-sufficient.
Oh, I agree. All right, we're calling it a 9. I think that's the last one. That is the last one for Whale Scale. That's all the games, my man. I think we're running close. No, I think we did pretty good here. Again, I think I chose my audience well for this one. But before we go, man, why don't you tell people where they can get the Tapo, because that's the reason we're here right now, and tell them where they can get it. You know, I know we only have 30 of them. You know, so let's talk a little bit more about it.
If you are interested in this pedal, as of right now, just DM me on Instagram at Blood and Sound. That's going to be the place to find it. I'll probably have a landing page to do something a bit more sophisticated, but you'd find it through that as well.
Sure. And you can always hit us up at poisonnoises.com or info@poisonnoises.com, and we can point you in the right direction at the very least on how you can get some of this stuff done.
Yeah.
So, dude, thank you so much for coming and doing this. You know, I've had a lot of fun doing these. Making these games is always fun for me, but also just talking gear is always fun for me.
Oh yeah, no, this was
you know, and doing this in this new format. I had a really good time. I'm glad we made this happen together.
Yeah.
I think I'm excited about the pedal. I think this stream went well. You know what I mean? Like all around, just good vibes.
Good
man.
vibes.
All right. Well, I'm Jordan from Poison Noises. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.